Kirsten Gillibrand is out. And what's interesting about Gillibrand is that she tried the strategy of this ultra woke, far left, regressive. She was literally the intersectional feminist candidate. I don't actually believe she holds many of those views. And I think what we're seeing here is a rebuke of this ideology. And in fact, it's a fringe, creepy ideology, if you were to ask me. Earlier today, I did a video on Dave Chappelle. I think most people probably found his special funny because most people don't pay attention to this stuff. All of these Democratic candidates, right? They have strategies. How can they set themselves apart? Well, I want to talk to you in this segment about not just Gillibrand, but also Beto, who seems to have no idea what he's doing. But the important thing here is, I'll put it this way. Politico says why Gillibrand crashed and burned. We're going to read this, but I'm going to say she crashed and burned because she was catering to the fraction of the fraction. Okay? Listen, you go over to the RCP average, she was polling at 0.1%. That makes total sense when you realize she was pandering to a fraction of the far left. Not even just the far left. So let's dive right in and read the story from Politico. They say why Gillibrand crashed and burned. A last-minute spending push in Iowa wasn't enough. Al Franken didn't help either. On Tuesday night, Kirsten Gillibrand gathered her family and her campaign manager, Jess Fassler, at her home in Troy, New York for a reality check. The New York senator had barely registered in polls all year despite burning through a $10 million campaign war chest. Where did that money come from? That meant she was about to get shut out of future Democratic presidential debates if she didn't hit at least 2% in either of the two polls coming out on Wednesday. Gillibrand couldn't carry out in the race. They decided, yeah, but come on, man. Tulsi Gabbard is getting the boot too, but she's got more than enough polls showing her over 2%. It's just an arbitrary system set up by the Democrats to protect the Democratic establishment. And I'm not even look, that's typically something you hear from the progressives. I actually think it's more of a populist opinion. Elitist Democrats are snooty and they rig the game. The populist types, and yes, they are I guess it just means anti-elitist. They're the far left, which tend to dominate the left. And then you have the Trump populists, which tend to dominate the right. But there are moderate people who don't like elitists too. And I guess, boy, I must be in the tiniest of tiniest political spaces. Politically homeless, as we like to say. But let's read. In August, Gillibrand made an all-out push to stay on the debate stage, dumping $1.5 million on TV and digital ads, blitzing through early voting states, and making the rounds on cable news. But the big spending plan yielded a single 2% poll showing Tulsi did better. Her once mighty campaign account dwindled to about $800,000, according to an aide familiar with the total. The polls were released Wednesday. The deadline to qualify for the next debate didn't help, so Gillibrand filmed a dropout video that morning and delivered the news to her staff at headquarters by mid-afternoon. It's important to know when it's not your time, Gillibrand said in the video. Yeah, well, the reality is bad consultants. Oh, okay, I shouldn't say the reality. My opinion is bad consultants. I don't blame her for trying to chase woke Twitter. They probably took a gamble on if we pander to the personalities on social media, they'll produce favorable content and that'll get us in the press. Why would they think something like that? Well, there's two reasons. First, Twitter is dominated by either the Trump conservatives or the woke left. And then looking at what Trump does to dominate the press, she probably thought she needed to do the same thing but play to the other side. But I'll tell you what, this country and many of the people in the middle of the country don't care for this fringe ideology. The only reason, in my opinion, they think it was the right move is because Twitter doesn't ban the people who are saying to get violent, to support Antifa and things like that. So with Trump and the people who pay attention to him, for one, he is the president, but you have regular conservatives supporting him. The fringes of the far right have mostly been banned. On the left, as we know, the fringes of the far left haven't, so she was chasing the wrong crowd. And that's one thing I've said that, it's not just her. Obviously, all of the other 2020 Democrats have tried pushing these lines, giving health care to non-citizens and things like that. This needs to be a wake-up call to the rest of the 2020 lineup. If you follow in her footsteps, you will get knocked out of the race. More people in the Democratic Party want moderate policy. But not only that, it's just so obvious. If you lose the moderates, they go to Trump, the next closest party. Let's read on. At one point, Gillibrand looked on paper like a legitimate, if not formidable, presidential candidate. One with flaws, but also the pluses of a perfect electoral record and a distinctly feminist message that looked like a compelling counter to Donald Trump. Exactly. But Gillibrand, dogged by criticism for pushing for Senator Al Franken's resignation, never took flight. It's a cautionary tale for the remaining low-polling candidates struggling to compete against the 4 or 5 leaders of the field. Gillibrand was drowned out by the top tier, in the same way the rest of the candidates who are still in it and aren't in those top 5 are being drowned out, said Patty Solis Doyle, a Democratic strategist who managed Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential run. It's a sign for all of them that they are probably not going to break out either. And that's true, too, and I get it, because I really like Tulsi Gabbard. There's one big reason. I appreciate her stance on war, but she is an actively serving National Guardsman, a major, and I think that's one of the most important things for our commander-in-chief, so I really do appreciate service. I think I disagree with some of her politics, but in the end, look, I definitely disagree with some of her politics, but what I mean is, I didn't think she was going to win. I'm not trying to be a dick. Maybe I should just pretend like she's going to win, we're going to do it, to rally support, but come on, I'm a realist, not an idealist. And it's kind of obvious. Now, Kirsten Gillibrand, on the other hand, we knew she was out. But let's do this. I'm not going to sit here and dawdle on this. This is a ridiculously long story to talk about why her politics were stupid. But Beto O'Rourke is so desperate. I want to talk about Beto O'Rourke next. Okay, we're seeing... I think Beto will drop out at some point, and I think it's really stupid for him to be in the debates. Because Beto is a plastic candidate. He shouldn't have been a candidate in the first place. In my opinion, I know I'm saying that a lot, the only reason Beto O'Rourke was even in the race was because the media wanted Ted Cruz to lose. So they did everything in their power to make it seem like Beto had substance. He doesn't. People were calling him White Obama. Well, as soon as he lost that race to Ted Cruz, the media's, their love affair with Beto, they were done. This is another big problem the Democrats are facing. The media doesn't care about you. They are propping you up for the short-term gain, but it's a long-term loss. And now they have someone like Beto in the field making them look nuts. Listen, after what happened in Odessa, Beto O'Rourke he goes on a rant apparently and starts swearing because Beto knows he doesn't stand out. Beto knows he's generic, he's plastic. No longer having the media support he expected or he assumed he would have, he's desperately flailing about trying to make it seem like he's got something when he doesn't. Let's read a little bit. So, quote, "Not sure how many gunmen, not sure how many people have been shot, don't know how many people have been killed, the condition of those who've survived, don't know what the motivation is, do not yet know the firearms that were used or how to acquire them," O'Rourke told a crowd of supporters during a campaign speech in Fairfax Station. "But we do know this is effed up. We do know that this has to stop in this country. There is no reason that we have to accept this as our fortune, as our future, as our fate," he continued. Yeah, see, after El Paso, O'Rourke tried playing the same media game smearing Trump. And then we started seeing Yang and other people start playing that. And I'm telling you, man, the identitarian tactics is not going to work. It's not going to work. And if you don't pay attention, you will be Gillibrand. Okay? Can I just make it clear? Where's O'Rourke on this thing, right? Beto O'Rourke, 2.4%. Okay, admittedly, that's a lot better than, even Tulsi Gabbard by 1 point. But Gillibrand was polling at 0.1%. Now, here's why it's important. O'Rourke is polling at 2.4% because he does have the media push. He still has a little bit of fire, even though they mostly left him. But he wasn't playing that game. He decided to start playing the game. After El Paso, O'Rourke started going nuts on this, play, insulting Trump, bigotry, etc. Well, Gillibrand's played that game the whole time, and it didn't work for her. Don't reverse course now when you're maintaining a polling average that gets you in the debates. But for whatever reason, and Yang's making the same mistake, but admittedly, Yang is doing better than O'Rourke, and Yang has qualified for the next debate. O'Rourke seems to be flailing his arms around, swearing, and trying to appear as bombastic as possible because he knows he's lost the narrative. No one cares. Beto O'Rourke is a generic nobody, and I'm surprised he's even in this race. In fact, Gillibrand makes more sense because she embodies the woke leftist identitarianism. O'Rourke doesn't embody anything. He's just like a stocky, boring guy who is wiggling his arms around and standing on countertops. So I'll say this. The main point I wanted to make with this segment was that, Gillibrand is out. And I've been saying it for a long time. The far left ideology stuff is not going to win you this race. So, Beto, I understand. He's going to try and pick up what she had on it. He's desperate. But we can just look to see, I'm surprised half these people are even in this race. I'll defend Delaney a little bit because he's made some poignant claims. But come on, man. For most of these people, it's going to be Biden. You know what I mean? Biden's going to last throughout. It might go to Sanders. I don't see any of them winning. And I'll say one last thing, because we all know it. The progressives and the woke will not get behind a moderate. So I think Gillibrand, her plan made sense. But in the end, there's a reason why Biden is the front runner. The moderates still control the party. So who knows how long that'll be. But I'll leave it there. Stick around. I got a couple more segments coming up for you in a few minutes, and I will see you shortly.